Yeah, so this is what I'm gonna say, right? I've run out of shit to say, but the one thing that I've kind of realized this week, right? I went to the pub. I wanted to play pool with my mates the other day, right? And there was no pool tables available, and I just chilled with them for like half an hour. And I feel like we only have, well, in my experience, I've only got like all in mode. I'm either all into something or I'm not into it at all. And it's something which I've had to kind of come to grips with, that um and it doesn't always mean this. It doesn't, for example, what I'm getting at is that I'm really into like business, self-development, working out this podcast audio side of things. And like I don't really have any social time, really. Like I don't go out and play pool or go out and really do things with people that much. Like me and you go out for meals, and I go out for meals with people sometimes. But I just sat there and I felt awkward, because for me to be in that environment properly, I need to be, well, not need to be, but in the past I've been drinking and getting on it with them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I can't be like half pregnant. I'm all in on this business, self-development, and like getting my life together at the moment. So even just having conversations about something other than that, to me at the moment, feels like a task. It's just like I'm not interested in anything else. So that's the only thing that I can really talk about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Because I was saying that I was having a chat with my mate the other day, and like I could see him trying to veer off into different conversations, and I just was bringing it straight back to like just business stuff, business oriented, or like self development. Like, where are you gonna be? Where you like, one of them ones like, what? How are you gonna do this? How are you gonna do that? Like, where do you want to be? Like, you're getting this money, you need to be doing that. Like, all this different stuff. I'm so like, if I see like holes in what someone's doing, or if I see that someone's got some sort of they've got some sort of opportunity in front of them, I need to be talking about that with them, of how I can help, or not just me help them, but how they can help themselves. And I can sort of put that in their head, because sometimes there's so many people around who I think you could be doing so much more, and like there's so many things that you can do. You're good at this, or you're good at that, or you've got like a certain amount of money, you can do this, or like start learning about the financial system and all this stuff. And I see a hole, and I want to like help them with that. And sometimes people just don't want to be helped, so I'm kind of like, all right, there's no pointless me even talking to you about it. I think that where I'm just so about that, and that's something that, like, me and you, we're like 95% talking about self-development, and the other 5% we just talk shit. But like, that is why we work so well, because we're just both on the same wavelength of just wanting to better ourselves. And like, you start doing something, and that makes me want to do it, and then I do something, and that makes you want to do it. So we're constantly in this like thing of like helping each other in certain ways, that if someone's not on that same wavelength of me, then it's not. I'm not really that interested.
This is where I'm at as well at the moment. I just find everything else. Well, I think we go through phases in our life, right? Where, you might be really interested in raving at one point, then you're really interested in getting a promotion at work, then you're really interested in healthy eating and going to the gym, right? And I feel like with those other things, it doesn't have the same effect, where I'm only interested in self-development at the moment. Like, maybe it's because of this shift in mindset to a more long-term way of thinking, and now I'm just really like laser focused on that. But with these other things, when you're just interested in raving or whatever. Like it doesn't, you're not, I don't know how to word it, but you're not, you can still do other things. You can still like be in other situations. Whereas at the moment, I feel like I can't be in other situations. I feel like if I do anything else, it's just kind of a waste because it's not moving me towards where I'm trying to get to. Um, I don't know if that's described very like eloquently.
I 100% get what you mean, because the only time I've ever gone out is when it's like a family thing. And even then, I'm not really, bothered. Like I went out for my dad's birthday and I wanted to go out for a meal before, and he's like, nah, I just want to go out and have a drink. And I was like, all right. And I went, and it was just like, just the loud music, and you can't hear anybody speak, and then everyone's in your face, and like you're just like, this is just fucking pointless. I can't have I can't even have like a shit conversation with anyone, let alone like a good one. And like everyone around, like you're just not in the environment that you want to be in. So everything in your brain is just telling you to leave, because it's like, this is everything I just despise now. Everything that I want to stay away from. And it's not even the fact of like looking down at anyone,
Nah,
or like,
it's
it's
just
just
not
like,
me at the
this isn't
moment.
me
I'm
anymore.
tuned into something different.
Mm,
And
mm,
so these modes that we go into, like I was kind of realizing it about myself, that I've had different phases where I'm literally just interested in cooking. Times where I'm just interested in watching Netflix, just interested in going to the gym, and not literally done nothing else. And then partying. Like there's times where I've done that 5 out of the 7 days, and the other 2 days are just recovering. Yeah, for
mm.
months. Did that for months last year and the year before.
And the year
So
before.
yeah, just I've I've been learning about debt and learning about how people use money in different ways, and the way that people use money to, like, they use debt instead of their own money to basically not pay tax. And I've been just learning about all of the different ways that that's done, because that's the one thing I do not want to be doing. Like I don't want to, basically the idea is that consumers lose because they pay the most tax. People that go to work and consume or save are the worst off,
Yeah, people are.
and they're often the people that work the hardest, but they're not working smart in any way. And oh, like for example, the thing that was said, right, was that the group of people which, so you've got like consumers, you've got self-employed, then you've got big businesses and investors. And the people who are big businesses and investors are seeking out the most tax efficient ways to manage their money, whereas the other people may be doing that, but they're kind of the worst off in terms of the percentages they pay. Just because there's different incentives for businesses as there are to self-employed people, for example. And the guy who's teaching the lesson was saying that when they say that rich people like need to lie to not pay taxes, or that they're cheating to not pay taxes, like they don't need to cheat. All of the things are in place for them to do it by the book. You know, they've got the people to help them manage it efficiently. And the people who are like actually cheaters of that system are people like contractors, or what you'd say, like when I was doing web design, you'd say to someone, pay me in cash, and you'd ask for cash. And when so these people would rather do someone a 20% discount than pay 35 to 50% in tax. Yeah, so it's actually people at the lower end of the spectrum that cheat the tax system, right? And I was sat thinking about it, and it's like, how is it that you can be doing something dodgy and illegal, for example, and that earns you less money than someone who works less than you, doesn't work as hard as you, and they make more money and pay less tax as well. And it's like, I want to know about that. Yeah. That is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in that. Right? Because
Yeah.
people are fucking, you know, these people that do this dodgy shit, they're
This
not
is
better off than the people, like, obviously these people who are a lot of big business people and high up people like that, they are involved in dodgy things a lot of times, scams and this and that. But people on the bottom end are doing such dodgy shit, and it's illegal, and they make less money and work harder than these other groups of people.
and risk their lives. They risk their freedom. And then there's just people who, like, like, if anywhere else you'd think that stuff should be illegal or whatever, the things that you find out about these big people who make a lot of money, you think that sort of shit should be illegal. But like, this is the thing that people don't understand. The government give incentives through tax. Tax for people like us is like tax, but tax for rich people who aren't paid like on a weekly basis or PAYE, whatever it is, all tax is an incentive to do something or to buy something or to hold something. Like, the government don't like to buy houses. They've done it and it's shit.
Yeah.
And also, this is another thing about oil at the moment. People have been, like, the rich people have been buying up loads of oil because the governments have given incentives for them to buy oil, tax incentives. So like, all these things that we don't know about, and it just seems like, okay, so there's this big, it doesn't make any sense for people like us, because it's like, oil, the one thing that everyone is like trying to get away from, or like they seem like they're trying to get away from it. We all know they're not trying to get away from it, but they're just trying to, they're like giving these people more incentive to make more money from oil, which is just, it's just funny, isn't it? And at one point I was like you, Maj, I'm still like it now. I can't listen to anything else that isn't to do with finances or the financial system or things like that. I just love it. Once I started getting into crypto, and I realized how the financial system worked, and it blew my mind that they could just they're just fucking everyone at the bottom, like literally everyone at the bottom. And like, tax, people, the people who actually pay the most tax in the world is like upper middle class people. They pay like 40%, and they also pay into pensions and all this stuff. That is what the government absolutely loves. They love those people, the people who make a lot of money from their job, pay a hell of a lot of tax, pay their pension, tick off for all these things that don't make no money, like cars and all these other bits. They're the people that they love.
Yeah, the thing about the financial system, basically, one element of it is that there's massive asymmetric information between the corporations and
The rich and the
the
poor.
people who actually use these products. Yeah. And yeah, the rich and the poor, because they prey on the lack of education that, for example, young people have, for them to get credit cards. So at the moment, the debt thing has been, it's I've basically now realized that it's the next level up for me in terms of my personal situation, that I need to get all of any debts I have paid off, start with the smallest and do this snowball method where you work your way up. and it's going to take however many years, but I was just going to leave it, and I was thinking, oh fuck it, like fuck them, I'm not paying any of that. But I've realized that it can be helpful if you use it the right way. So I've just ordered a credit card to start trying to build up my credit rating and show that I can pay money back. So I've done the savings. I've got the budget. I've got my cost down as low as I can. Now the debt thing is the next step forward, or the next rut on that ladder. So that's the next thing I need to work on. And all I'm interested in is how to make businesses work, how to get cash flow, how to reduce costs, how to get assets that earn me money, what assets earn me money. Like at the moment,
What assets hold money? Because you don't want it in cash.
yeah, they were saying as well that there's just the different little differentiations between these things. There's like things that hold money aren't assets. Assets are things which pay you money. But there's hold cash over time, or holds value over time. For example, gold. Like,
But there's a difference between that, because yeah, that's fine, like things like gold and stuff, but you think it doesn't make you money, but if you hold
yeah,
that
but
and
that's
you can
hold
hedge
value over
against
time.
that to get debt,
Then it's collateral. But there's just a hold of value.
Yeah, but that's
It's not.
but that's an asset, because you're
An asset.
how is it
An
not?
asset has to pay you. Like, he even said that Bitcoin is not an asset. Bitcoin is a hold of value. Yeah, it could if you sold it, but he said if you sell it to make money, it's inventory. It's a rental property is an asset. Even a stock is a hold of value. It's not an asset unless it pays you a dividend. It's inventory, because it's like stock to a business, to a shop, for example. So there's even that nuance, because like, yeah, it could pay if you sold it, but then it's not paying you for holding it. Obviously, if you can borrow money against it, that's still basically like having it in the bank. Yeah, but except you've just got it in the form of something else.
Yeah, but it depends what you're doing with that money as well. But then again, it wouldn't. You still probably wouldn't even class it as an asset, because it's not actually the thing that's going to be making you money. But you're just using that as collateral to get debt to buy other
Yeah, so
assets
this is
which
the
make you
thing
money.
about purchasing assets. You know, we're basically taught to think that stocks and shares and crypto and everything are assets, but they're not. They're just a way to hold value.
Well, what we've been doing is actually buying assets recently. I've come away from crypto because we both sat down and realized what assets are. This is like this, like the computers, like and all the stuff in the studio. That's an asset. So thinking that was one big thing for me, to be fair. Like, I realized that I needed real stuff, which is going to make me money, instead of like gambling on the future of whether something's going to go up and down or not. Like, what can I put in the work, buy something which is going to possibly, and the asset doesn't actually have to make you money like right away. Like, it can, if you're building something, it's like, say you're a bricklayer and your trowel is your asset. That trowel might not make you money until like the house is done. Do you know what I mean? So you need to be buying these little things to build for that, to get you money for the future as well, and don't expect it to make you money straight away.
Yeah. See, the thing that you always talk about is how you need to get an asset to pay for the cash, like to provide the cash flow to buy the things that you want. Don't, like, for example, buying crypto first is kind of wrong, because the way that you make the money
Yeah, it's a completely wrong way to
by
do about it.
trading your time for it. Like you're trading your time to buy a value hold, right? When you should be investing your income in assets to provide you cash flow, which you then invest into things which hold value. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like the first step
That's the way to
is
do
to
it.
buy or to invest in cash generating assets or build them. But the thing that I've spoken to people about, people who have been landlords for 25 years, for example, what I've been told is that it's to buy a flat and make money off of it is quite difficult these days because of the deposit you need. And yeah, you can get incentives to buy houses in the UK, for example, with low deposits in order to live in them, but it's a whole different ball game to actually buy to let. You need a whole completely different thing. Like I am not gonna meet that criteria for a while.
You need like
Exactly.
40%.
So on £100,000 house that you're gonna rent out for, I don't know, 700 quid a month in the south, something like that, 600-700 quid. Well, maybe depends. It depends how you buy it. Depends if you get it at market value or you buy it on plan. There's a lot of different factors. But for example, I know someone from a flat that I lived in. I was paying £1,000 a month, and it cost him 30k, and he bought it on plan, and it didn't. It took 2 years to get built. But basically, in 2.5 years, the time that I lived there, what he paid for it was paid back. So there are little things like that where it does work out. But from this conversation I had with this guy about what a young person like me in my situation can do is create businesses. If you can create businesses that generate cash flow and then start getting scrappy with the situation that you're actually in to start to maximize it, like what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So this alcohol business, and then we've got the studio, and we want to start renting it out and start using this extra space that we've got now. That's generating cash flow with what I have, and it's using the knowledge that you have at the moment and what you have at the moment to start making money. Because buying houses to start renting them out is a bit far off for me still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very far away for me as well. I mean, I don't in like what's it called? Like in a relative or I don't know what the word is. In like a real time for me, that it's probably like being realistic about it, 2-3 years. But in my head, I think it's probably going to come a lot sooner than what we think. But if we're being realistic about it, like, yeah, 5 years in the future, that's sort of a time where we're going to be sort of looking at that. But I think for having that kind of, you also need like a lot of money behind you as well, because if you don't want anything to go wrong with the house, like, and the people need boilers and stuff, and you're scrambling around trying to get money for the boilers and things like that. So there's so many things that need to come into play when you're renting places out. And also, like, you need to, like, people have talked to you about from landlords, is like, these people might not pay for like 6 months, so you've got to spot them 6 months worth of mortgage payments.
Yeah.
So
I've been told that tenants can basically not pay their rent for 6 months. Like, and they can't be
yeah,
kicked.
and
That's how long it
it's
takes
just pointless.
to get rid of them. So you got to cover that cost.
So you literally have to just cover the whole cost, and it's like, all right, you need to have that plan in place for all that money to be, because they might not even pay that first time. They might just be like, yeah, we know, we've done this like loads of times before. And they jump in there, they're there for 6 months, don't pay you, and then you finally get them out, and then you're stuck again, and you've got to wait another month for any income to come in. It's like, that could really mess up your mortgage, and you could lose the house, and then you're fucked, and then your credit score's fucked, and you
Where
can't
did
get
you
another
hear about that
mortgage.
6-month thing from?
So
Oh.
from you, I think.
Because I didn't know about that until recently. Because that's quite a weird. There's a lot of rights that tenants get that the landlords are basically they try and trick people just by the way that they talk to you into thinking that you have to agree with them. Like, for example, when they start doing viewings when you put your notice in. And I said to my landlord, I was like, mate, you can't keep just turning up here and doing viewings, and you can't, you can't. They tried to say, well, it's in your contract that you're going to be charged £380 if we can't do a viewing because it's messy. And I thought, it fucking doesn't say that. And I read it about 4 times, and I was like, can you show me where it says that? Can you show me the thing that I've signed that says that you can charge me that fee? Because it was like the equivalent of the deposit they could charge. They tried to, they even sent me like a thing that looked as if it was from a contract that said, we'll charge you the equivalent of your deposit, which mine was £390, if we cannot do a viewing because the place is unpresentable. And it's like, okay, fair enough, you've just wrote this term to me, but I've never signed anything that says that in it, so that doesn't apply to my contract. And then the viewing stopped.
And how many people would like give in to
Because
that?
mate, when they were saying it, I was thinking, fuck, I'm gonna I've got to go back and tidy
But
this place up to make sure that they can view it. And then turns out, no, you don't. Like,
I think there's so many things with that because people are mushed. But this is the thing, they prey on these people who are just going into uni or whatever, who might not know certain bits. I mean, they can't get away with it all the time because some of these people have parents who are pretty screwed on. But there's so many different factors. Like one thing, out here, I've got parking, and I can only park in W spaces. And in my first bit, I didn't have the little holder to keep it in there, so I'd have to remember to put my little W card on there. And I ended up racking up like 4
different
different
fines for it.
parking fines, and I've had it elsewhere as well. I've had parking fines. I've never ever paid a parking fine from like one of them things. They send you letters for like trying to scare you for about 6-8 months, and then they just stop sending them. And like, I think, how many people actually
I
pay
tried that
those?
once with a McDonald's parking ticket, and they did just say, "No, we are just going to take you to court."
Yeah, but even if they take you to court, that's all the letters I got. It's like, we're taking you to court. And it's like, yeah, they take you to court, but they can't. It's literally like 99% of them don't go through. The court just tell them to
Really?
fuck off. Yeah, like it's all just scaremongering. People don't really get caught by these thingies.
I think if it's unfair, but I'm pretty sure when there's like terms, if they're clear and you have actually agreed to it, then the court would like honor the company.
I'm pretty sure that it's very rare that they'd ever honor the company, because it's not. You can't. It's not like
Yeah,
law.
but it's exactly, it's a civil thing.
I don't think there's much they can do. Obviously, people, you need, like, don't just go off what I'm saying, because I don't want anyone coming back at me. But personally, I've never paid one, and I've always been fine. They've always just, yeah. It's all just like scary letters, and like, you've got this amount of time, otherwise we're gonna take you to court, and you could be charged up to £1,000, and it's just, I think it's all bullshit.
Mm. I can't find anything about the numbers, but there are a lot of cases that have set precedent about, like, if the terms weren't clear, if there wasn't a notice that they can't do it, but they can. It says they can, like, claim the money back from you, and the court can make a bailiff come and take it from you. How often that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it does happen, but it's very rare.
The time that I saw this, though, it was just like, fuck it, just pay the thing.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not that much, but when you get it and it's like £100, you're like, I'm not paying that. There's no way I'm paying that. Especially if it's outside my own flat and I've actually got the thing to park there. I'm never paying that.
Yeah, that's unfair. That's an unfair parking fine, for sure. Because, like, you have a permit.
Yeah. And I even sent them an email saying, like, I live here, sent them a little picture of my parking thing, like the W. And I was like, look, I'm not really doing too great at the moment, all this stuff. But I do have a parking permit. They were like, we don't care. You need to pay us the dough. And I was like, fuck you, man. There's no way I'm paying that. You're cheeky as fuck. Imagine that, bro. Like, during COVID as well. Them man were out in full force when COVID was about, weren't they?
Disgusting.
They was
Disgusting.
out getting, man.
Absolutely disgusting. They fucking wouldn't let you go to hospital. You weren't allowed to go to the hospital. You weren't allowed to see anyone. You weren't allowed to leave your house. But parking, like, the ticket wardens were allowed to walk around and stick tickets on everyone's cars. It's just like, this is essential work, is it? It's just like, your definitions are fucked. The things that you come out with. The things that they come out with is disgusting.
It's got worse. It's got worse over COVID, since COVID as well. Them man just get called out for anything. Like, literally, you're parked on a double yellow for 1 minute, bruv. They're out there.
Yeah, the parking orders are disgusting now.
The owl chair.
You can understand some of them. It's only really when it actually inconveniences you that you start to think, why the fuck is this guy parked like this? Like, I said it to my friend, he parked at the back gate of where I need to bring stock in and out for the shop. And I texted him saying, can you move your car, please? And I just thought it'd be funny if a few minutes later I texted him saying, if you don't, I'm gonna report you to the council. Just as a joke. Obviously, I'm never gonna report him to the council. And he replied back like, you're barking up the wrong tree. You don't want to start a war with me or something. I was like, fuck off, mate. I'll roll your car down the hill. And then and he came back an hour and a half later and he had a parking ticket. I was like, yeah, I reported you. I dobbed you in, mate. Don't park here again.
Yeah. Imagine actually being that much of a neek.
No.
Calling up the council. When you lived in your old place, didn't you say that
the guy across the road
he was
from
going
me
out on like bike rides,
like taking pictures and logging down when I was leaving the house? And I left the house about 150 times every day.
Yeah.
This guy did not leave the house for about a year and a half. I never even said a word to him, and he'd always be on his balcony. I was just so disgusted by his behavior. Like, I was equally as disgusted with him as he was with me. So like, I didn't even want to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, you two are just
This guy did
completely on
not leave his
different
house.
paths, bro.
I've seen him stood on his balcony with a mask on. Yeah. So like this guy and myself have got nothing in common to be having a conversation about. I even stopped talking to people
Yeah.
in supermarkets when they had I stopped talking to people with masks. So like when I'd go
Yeah.
into a shop and they'd be like, "Oh, where's your mask?" I wouldn't even say a word back to them. I just get the thing out of my phone that says I'm exempt, and that's it. Like I'm not even having.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say one word to you. I remember being in Sainsbury's, and I was looking for like chickpeas or something, and I was like, "Where the fuck are these gonna be?" Looking where you'd think they might be. Spent ages looking for this thing, right? And then I was just I stuck to it, and I didn't ask anyone because I was looking around but trying to be like, does someone know where these are? And everyone had a mask on, so I didn't ask anyone. But I found them in the end. It took me like 5-10 minutes to find them. So yeah, just those rules were just
Mate.
disgusting, absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous. You have to wear one, except you don't, right? And you have to show us this pass, except you don't. And you need a real reason for
Yeah.
it, except you don't. So the
Mush,
actual
this is
rule
the
was
thing.
that you don't need to wear a mask, you don't need to explain why, and you don't need to show any reason for it. That was the actual rule when you got down to it. So this whole thing of wear this, do this, stand here, that wasn't a rule at all.
All it was power trips. People were on power trips. It's like being back at school again, but like all the people who worked in the shops and that, they're all like school teachers. They all loved it. They all got like, well, not all of them, but a lot of them got like proper like, oh yeah, I'm in control of these people. So that's all it was. It's just the actual rules and the people that were making up the rules for themselves in the shops and like all these other places. They're all on these
It's
power
like
trips, and you could
the
see it in the different.
supermarkets made up their own rules. And even after like mandates that weren't actually like what they said they were on the surface, when you actually read the rules, the thing about that exemption pass is that you don't need to get it from a doctor. You can just download it from the government's website, and they weren't allowed to routinely ask for proof. It says that you're not supposed to ask for proof that someone isn't like supposed to wear one or is exempt.
Doesn't need a yeah.
So why were they asking? And basically I remember that someone explained it to me in a club. Basically, I said no, I'm exempt. Look, hey, here you go. And they're like, no, it's like a dress code in here. You have to wear one. It's part of our dress code. It's like a mask is part of your dress code. It's just like, is it actually, or are you just being difficult? And the bouncer was this lady who was being just annoying, and the other guy was like, just go in, mate, like that. Because I was like, all right, I'll wear one. Have you got one? And then they didn't have one, and then they were just like, just the woman was trying to be quite difficult, and the guy who was like with her just said, yeah, just go in. And then supermarkets started doing the same thing. They started making it their policy based on it being on private land, which they can do. Waitrose could open its door and say no one's allowed in here. This isn't open to the public. They could technically say that. But the fact that we're allowed, like these companies that are like Tesco and Waitrose and everything like that, they're basically like public services in the sense that they're so big and are so used by the public in the UK. The same way that social media is basically a public tool, even though they're technically private companies. it's used as if it's a public tool. I remember going to Waitrose and I showed him the exemption card and he was like, no, we don't accept that here. And I looked it up and each of the main supermarkets in the UK had different rules. And it's like, how far are we going to let this go? At what point are we going to say, actually, this is not sensible? Right? And I think the problem with the whole thing around COVID is that it's not that simple, right? And there's a lot of things which are unrelated, which were made to be related through the media. So like, it was made to sound simple, like wear masks, save lives. But there was actually a whole different thing that was actually happening. And the propaganda made things seem, the propaganda condensed everything into 3 words: hands, face, space. Or what was the other one? Stay
These
home,
slogan things.
save lives or something. And it's like,
yeah,
well, these things just didn't go like that. They just didn't go like that. So there's always a different side to the story, especially with propaganda. And I don't want to go into that to start speculating why or what actually happened, but it just clearly wasn't about what they said it was about, because the things that were being brought in were just totally, that almost seemed unrelated to the situation at hand. Masks were made mandatory when the cases were at their lowest point in the UK.
It was way after.
So it's just like this nothing going on. Oh, by the way, you have to wear a mask in a shop now. You have to. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
now
we've patented it, so we've bought shitloads of masks.
You have to buy them.
And like now we've got it. Yeah, you've got to buy them. And that was the same with everything that they sort of like tried to bring in. It was like, we bought a lot of this and now we've got to sell it to you guys. Like, they couldn't get it patented straight away. So like, and all this hand sanitizer and stuff, like there was a big shortage to begin with, and then there was loads of it, and because they bought a shitload. And I was obviously a lorry driver at the time. I literally just came into COVID or whatever, and there was just at the start, I went to some place who sold medical supplies, like all the medical masks and all everything that you needed for the, and apparently they put in a quote to the NHS, and the NHS weren't taking, or they put in a quote to the government for all these supplies, and they took none of them. They were like, they're not taking any of them. Like they're not coming up. There's everyone saying that there's a shortage of supplies. We've got enough for the whole of UK here, and they're not taking any of it.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean, that's just like one thing. It's like the
toilet
toilet rolls, and then there's the guy in the toilet roll warehouse. Like, I could wipe everyone's ass in the UK with the toilet roll in this building. Yeah. And why is it not on the shelves? Oh, it's because the actual reason is to do with the times that the government said that deliveries can be made to supermarkets was like between 2 and 5 o'clock or something. So, there wasn't actually a shortage in the products. The rules around when things could be delivered changed the logistics, meaning that not as many could be delivered. So it's like, that's what actually happened. The government said you can't just deliver at any time. It has to be between these times. And that's why there's nothing on the shelves.
And also the media would just put like things like no toilet, and they put like little pictures up with the like empty shelves and that like one last toilet roll there, and it's like, you know what you're doing, like you know what you're doing. And it's the same with the oil. It's like taking pictures of like the oil with the like the little sign over it, and that's like no more oil, and it's like, oh, it's like you wonder why people are rushing to get oil, and it's like because you guys are fucking painting a picture which there's going to be limited supply of this. It's like they know it's so obvious. It's like they're just doing it in like bait face, bruv. Like it's craziness, and it's um it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. The fact that they can like get away with this stuff and nothing ever come of it. Like, and another thing, nobody asks the questions. It's like, why did they do that? Oh, everyone just gets on with their day. It's like they done all that with with the um with the oil and stuff. It was just blatant, and but obviously they kind of got away with it with the toilet roll because it was like bang in the COVID bit. So it was like, oh, that. But then with the oil, that was unbelievably blatant. Like like how the fuck they got away with
Which
that is
with
beyond
what?
me. With the oil, with the petrol and diesel. Remember when on it was like one weekend or 1 week where there was just shitloads
Yeah,
of people
like a few months ago, like four
lining up
months
for
ago or
oil.
something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and but it was all the news articles that came out with the little things over it saying like there's going to be a shortage of fuel and all this shit.
They know how people react in all these situations. Using lies and propaganda is so old now. They know exactly how we were going to react, and I think all we did for them in the last few years is give them unbelievable data on how easy it is to tell people to do anything if the TV says it, and that is the reality of it. And
Mm.
it, I'd love to be convinced otherwise. I'd love to be convinced otherwise. But from what I can see and from my experience, and it's 95 out of 100 people just believe what they hear on the news. And I remember saying things, and someone was like, "Where did you read that?" And I said, "This is where I read it, and this is the source." And they're like, "Is there anything about that on BBC News?" And I said, "No, there's not." And they were like, "So why do you believe it?" It's like, because the only information that comes out isn't just what's authorized. It doesn't, like, you say that for example, news outlets aren't biased, or that they aren't um that they aren't biased basically, but they are through what they decide to talk about, what they decide to, like. Not only is a lot of it like completely spun out of proportion and is written to suit some pre-planned thing of this is the way you need to make it come across, and it is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's some nefarious thing, but it is written and it is displayed in a way that is made to make you come to some specific outcome. For a year and a half, every time you clicked onto the news, it was literally just videos of ambulances driving into hospitals, and then pan-in shots of hallways in hospitals with someone talking really seriously over it. And the thing that's kind of difficult to argue against is like, what would they have done if it was 100% real what they were saying? Isn't that what they would have done? Wouldn't they have shown videos like that and talked about it really seriously? It's like, yeah, they probably would have, but if you can't see it, if something this big doesn't affect you, doesn't affect one person that you know, it's not unusual to have questions about it. And if the story isn't watertight and doesn't hold up to questions, then it leads you to different avenues and different areas of research about it. Yeah. So you can't like knock someone for having questions about something like this. This was a massive shift in the way that we do everything. To not have any questions about it and to be completely open to it is quite naive. And especially to the extent that we saw the changes happen and how quickly it happened and how unquestioning people were, is extremely worrying, because there are changes now that have been made that will not ever go away. Right? They're not things which are, there's like obviously emergency powers acts and things like that. But these definitions and what's included in them and everything like that is so broad now that, oh, there's a strike in Canada, so anyone who comes to this protest, we're going to close your bank accounts. It's like, fucking hell. How the fuck did we get here? Like, how did we get here from there's a new virus to like, we're going to lock you up if you turn up here without this piece of paperwork? It's like, hang on. Like, let's go back a few steps here, because you're like moving mad with these new rules and stand here and stand 2 meters apart. And if you've been here in 30 days, you're not allowed to come back here for 60 days. And like, what?
Do you know? You know the mad one, like the red and green lights next in Tesco's. You got
stand
a
at the
queue
red
and
light.
that, like, bruv, what? I would just walk straight to the front, like straight in, like, bruv, what? Why are we standing around like with this red light and green light? What the fuck is this? Like, there's so many mad things that they was doing. It's just like, what are you not doing?
I don't know why. The
It's
thing
crazy.
for me that really, I thought it was bullshit from the first second, right? The first second I heard about it, and you saw the videos of people lying on the floor in China, right? Which,
Yeah.
where else did that
Standing up,
happen except on
falling,
the TV? And in China,
yeah,
right at the beginning.
nowhere.
Where else did it happen? Right. So as soon as I saw that, I just kind of thought, what the hell's this? But for me, it was when my brother rang me and he said, there's nothing on the shelves. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, in the supermarkets, there's like nothing on the shelves. All the pasta, all the bread, the toilet roll, everything is gone. There's literally like just tinned food and stuff. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, this thing's actually like popping off. He was like, you might want to go like get some bits from the shop. And he was like asking if there was anything I needed as well. And the next day I went to go swimming. I was swimming every day at the time. And then as I got there, there was stuff popping up on my phone about the lockdowns coming and blah, blah, blah. And I got to the swimming pool and the guy was just closing the door and putting a notice up saying, unfortunately, we've had to close due to government restrictions, blah, blah, blah. The fucking same notice that you ended up reading everywhere for years to come. Right. And then when that in my head, and I don't know how this may seem to other people who watch the news, that it's some conspiratorial way of thinking or that I'm uneducated or how this comes across. But for something to happen in some remote place with someone that I know nothing about, that I didn't vote for, that I don't actually understand why they have some element of control over me in the most minuscule sense, to then be able to have a conversation, which I'm not privy to vote on something which I'm not privy to have such, what's the word? To have actually had the power to be able to close the swimming pool, like, so that when I got there, Like they've put one thing on the news one day, the shops are empty. Next day, someone comes out and says something, and then every shop is fucking closed except Sainsbury's and the supermarkets. Like that in my head just isn't real. There's nothing that could have happened that actually warrants or justifies that in my head. There's no like real thing happening where that is the answer to it. Especially when after that, I know more people who have died within 2 days of getting the vaccine than I know who died from COVID. And yeah, this can be argued to be anecdotal, and I know someone who's died, and what about this person who died, and my son died. And it's like, I'm not being funny, but with the amount of lies that we've been fed over the last few years and the pieces of information that have been left out and the new laws that were brought in about doing postmortems and things like that, how do you know you haven't been lied to? I know people who said that their dad died from COVID, and it's like, my dad had fucking stage 4 cancer, or he was in late stage cancer, and he was going to die anyway. And they said COVID killed him. And then there's people that fell down the stairs or had a motorbike crash and died of COVID. And it's like, I'm not being funny, but you know, there are questions. And it's not, in my head, I just don't see how someone could have actually had the power to make that decision and it affects my life on that level. For me, that was the first time I've ever seen that.
To the point where you can't even go outside, like, and nothing made sense. Like, for an illness or whatever, a disease, whatever you want to call it, a virus, which like attacks your lungs, and you can't exercise to like build up strength for your lungs. It's like, what the fuck? None of it made any sense. All the things that they were putting in didn't make any sense, and the most people who were dying were obese, and it's like, well, you can't exercise, the gyms aren't open.
Vitamin D insufficiency may account for almost 9 out of 10 COVID-19 deaths. And what weren't we allowed to do? You weren't allowed to fucking go outside at the beginning of summer. And vitamin D deficiency is what causes 90% of the deaths.
And in vitamin D deficiency, what are the side effects of that? And I guarantee they're all the same as long COVID. Like, because I remember my dad saying that he had long COVID and all this, and people saying that they had long COVID, but these are people who sat in their houses every day, didn't leave, didn't do any exercise. Like, I would guarantee that's got something to play with it.
So look.
I'm going to check what's going on out here.
Fatigue and weakness, mood changes like depression, poor appetite. What's going on there? What's going on there?
Kicking off. The nitties are, all the nitties are out in full force, bro. They're all going nuts. There's like sleeping bags everywhere. What it's like to live in Portsmouth, eh?
So these things aren't exactly the same. There's quite a lot, but like lowering your immune system, getting ill is part of vitamin D deficiency anyway. So here you go. Here's an article from healthyway.com. Muscle weakness, bone pain, and constant respiratory problems. Studies have shown that vitamin D may help defend against respiratory illness, and this is especially true in children. Constant respiratory problems may present themselves in different ways, and this is an effect of vitamin D deficiency. And that just happens to be one of the things which 9 out of 10 people who died of COVID had. So it's like, never heard that one on the news, but there's medical papers that detail it, right?
Because they didn't want you they didn't want you outside.
This is the
they
thing.
wanted you inside.
The point is that me and you can't speculate of what the plan was, because unless we go into full detail, that's then becomes a subject of what people want to argue about. Like, the way that I'm talking about it is, this is how I feel about it. This is how, but we're not speculating about what we think the plan was, or we're just talking about what we saw happen. But it's quite clear.
Yeah,
it's
our
quite
experience.
clear that something was happening, and what we were being told was happening was something different. So the thing that was actually happening, we were basically distracted from. That is a fact.
Well, yeah, exactly. So basically, there was a vitamin D deficiency, but we weren't allowed outside. And from everything that was coming out, from everything that was coming out of the things that they were telling us to do, how does that make any sense? Like, make it make sense. So it's like, for us to say things or make statements like that, I think it's obviously warranted, but you don't really want to be like making statements about stuff in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just difficult to do it without having a whole thing to explain why, because people jump at like the first point that they can attack in that type of statement. But yeah, we were basically absolutely bombarded with propaganda, and we were told not to do completely natural, normal human things because we were in an emergency situation. But the emergency situation was played up to such an extent that it frightened the life out of most of the people in this country. Like, to the extent that people would have done anything that they were told just to go back to normal, or the way that it used to be. But the reality is that, to be quite honest, the way that we were living before that was not very normal or very natural anyway. But the lack of human connection and communication that happened over that time was massively reduced, and it had a massive effect on people, on depression and suicide, and general feelings of being disconnected. These problems are well known. Lockdowns are well known to cause poverty. Lockdowns are well known to cause supply chain issues, and the World Health Organization even said that lockdowns are ineffective at slowing the spread of airborne viruses. They know all these things. These playbooks are fucking old. They know how to react in pandemics and emergency situations. So what happened? The people that think that the government is incompetent are themselves incompetent, because the government is very efficient and competent at what they actually do. And it's not what they say they're doing. That's the reality of it. For people that sit there and argue about, well, I was never taught this in school. Why wouldn't they teach you this in school? Because it's not supposed to teach you that. It's supposed to teach you something, but it's not what you're led to believe it's supposed to teach you about. It's something completely different. And this is the exact same way that these other systems work.
It's exactly like Boris Johnson has his hair all scruffy to make himself look like a Dinlo who just doesn't know what he's talking about when he's like probably one of the smartest men in
It's one of the most
men in
highly
the UK.
educated people in this country. And I love listening to Alan Watt from Cutting Through the Matrix, right? And he always says, I'd love to see the stylist who actually stands there and toughs up the hair like that and makes it perfectly imperfect. Like and this is the thing, that these people that we're presented with as being in charge, that from the information that I've read and what I've learned about, everything they say is on a script, supposedly. That they don't deviate whatsoever, and if they do, they get put back into line, because there's like an old saying that if voting actually did anything, it would be made illegal. Yeah, because it's not supposed to. You're supposed to think that it does, but it's not actually supposed to do anything for you. And this is when people say, "Oh, did you vote?" Why would I? Why actually would I?
Yeah, it's pointless.
Because
it's literally pointless. You're all voting for the same thing. You're voting for one party because you think that it's different, but it's actually not.
No one
They're all
turned
just
up
the same.
to vote, they would have videos of millions of people turning up, and they would have a count. They would.
From like years.
They would
from
just
like
replay some old
years
footage and be
ago.
like, 25 million people voted over the last few days, and these are they're counting up at the moment. There's not even one card been voted on. Not even one thing been fucking. There's not been one vote, and they would have the video to show that half the population voted. And you could be asking people and saying, "Did you vote?" "I didn't vote." Everyone you know would say no, they didn't vote, but they would still be like, "Oh look, did you see who's won? Did you see who's the prime minister now?" Yeah, that is actually what we're like as a country. That's actually what this country and the world is like. That's what the way that we get information is actually like.
And there was another thing with Brexit, and it's like everyone was like, "Oh, I can't believe anyone voted for Brexit," and it's like they wouldn't have like put that out to vote if it wasn't gonna go that way.
As
like,
if we did, as if it was down to us. Right? As if that was actually down to us. The whole world is run by people that aren't voted in. Yeah, the government outsources everything to groups which no one votes for. All of their think tanks, all of their like political action committees, all of these groups which actually steer, and especially, and then not even to mention like financial organizations. No one voted any of these people. No one voted for anyone for the World Health Organization. No one voted anyone for the World Economic Forum or the Trilateral Commission or any of these. What's the other one? The Bilderberg Group, and the sway that these organizations actually have on governments, and the way that their think tanks actually change the course of whether it's legislation or whether it's just procedures that the government is carrying out. No one votes for those people. And they're the people who actually decide where this is going. Yeah. These other people, like, they don't... I don't get why people were there going, "Oh, well," it's like, I don't know. I can't think of an analogy for it, but I've heard a lot of jokes about it. About basically people were just arguing like, why is Boris the prime minister? Why is this guy like? How the fuck is this guy the prime minister? He's so incompetent, and it's like, would he be the prime minister if he was incompetent? Right? Or are they just telling you
Yeah.
like a different story? Like this guy is obviously doing some job, right? And his job may be to make you believe that he's incompetent, right? That could be his job. And he's done that well. And if he's done that unbelievably well. Like at this point, I couldn't even tell you if he's still the prime minister. I genuinely don't know.
But that's been his role since like when I think about Boris Johnson, like he's been playing that role for a long time. Like Mayor of London, all them times he's always been like the class clown, like, and
Mate.
that's how the media's always portrayed him. I feel, but I know we shouldn't like speculate or anything, but it just feels to me like his position has like all led up to that moment.
If there's one thing that we can speculate about, that I can tell you for about 90% certain, Boris Johnson has been steaming drunk in every single public appearance he's ever made. Right. And I can say that with about 90% certainty. He is a raging alcoholic. He's steaming all the time.
You know he's on the Pinot Noirs, bro.
And then it comes out, oh yeah, no, we were just partying the whole time. Nah, this was a work meeting, so why is there bottles of wine on the table? Because Boris Johnson is that was a work meeting. Boris Johnson's just always got a bottle of wine in front of him.
Yeah.
And even when they said, do you know how much a loaf of bread is to him? And he's like, no, I can tell you how much a bottle of wine is though. And it's like,
yeah.
And then he thought a loaf of bread was a $5. A pint of
no,
milk
it was a pint of milk, wasn't it?
It's because he doesn't drink anything except wine.
Yeah, literally.
Right? So just take Boris Johnson, right? What was his last job? He had a good last job. He wasn't like working in the job centre as a door staff or something like that. He was
like
Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth
Ministry?
Affairs. And that's a pretty high up job.
Basically,
right? They oversee the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and the Government Communication Headquarters, GCHQ. So they're both like the, GCHQ is like something which a lot of people haven't been like told about because it had a D notice put on it, which is where I think comes from the Prime Minister. But basically, no one's allowed to report on it. A D notice advises the press of subjects of stories it is advisable not to publish because of damage to national security. I think it was David Cameron at the time when GCHQ was being built, and basically they were told, don't say anything about GCHQ, mate. And that's like where all of the communication that happens in the UK goes through here. All the cybersecurity for the UK, and then the person who's head of that reports to this Secretary of State for Foreign Commonwealth Affairs. Right, so he was the boss of MI6 and GCHQ, and you think this guy's some uneducated, like, lunatic. You don't put someone like that. Like, you cannot even get that job. It's not even possible to get that job. They pick you. Right? There's no one you can send your CV to get an interview for that job. Right? It's not possible. Right? So who is this person? Because he's not just one of us normal people who's worked his way up and done that. He's obviously someone else. Yeah? And he just so happens to be a raging alcoholic as well.
but he probably does way more than
He's
our
on it
pen.
all, mate. He's on it all.
Yeah, and he's got all the birds as well. You know he's got he's got loads of birds. He's having it off up in fucking Downing Street, isn't he?
So yeah, I mean, the main point of that is just basically that people seem to think that it's actually what they're told it's about, when there's this whole other thing. There's this whole other thing going on here. Fucking GCHQ and MI6 boss, then Prime Minister, and you think this guy like doesn't know what he's doing, or that he's just like making mistakes. It's like, no.
Yeah.
At this level, that's not how it works. They don't, like, your council might make mistakes. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? This is a big boy job. You can't just get this job. I mean, it's like a political job that's more like a position before you get put into another position to see if they're worthy and stuff like that. But these are always high up people. Like the current person is a member of the Privy Council. I don't know if these are always a member of the Privy Council, but that is like the closest group which advises the sovereign of the United Kingdom. But I think maybe they are normally members of House of Commons and House of Lords. But yeah, they're not just fucking. You can't just get that job. There's no way I'm ever going to be a member of the Privy Council and the head of MI6. It's just not ever going to happen.
He's been working towards that since he was a kid.
He got picked for that when he was in nursery. Probably before that.
Yeah.
He probably got picked for that based on the what his dad wrote books about. And his dad wrote books about fucking depopulation and all sorts of crap. So yeah, this was the thing that a lot of people last year had. I mean, I don't even know. Was it last year, the year before? That, like, because of COVID, they had like really horrible times, and like it ruined their life and it fucked them. I had, like, we've spoken about this before on the podcast, yeah, but I had such a good time. I had the best time of my life. I met more people during lockdown than I did, I think, during my whole life before that. Right? And I don't know how clever that is to say, because this is connected to, you know, I talk about business, I talk about other things. Can it come back to bite you? Maybe. I'm not really too sure. But, you know, I left my house 100 times a day. My neighbor took photos of me every day. I never wore the mask. The couple of times I did wear the mask was in a situation where I was getting paid, and I did it just to not rock the boat. And then it comes off, and then you crack on with it. But that the thing that they wanted to do of scaring me into doing something, and it wasn't something you could ask questions about and get educated about. It was, do this or you're not involved. There was no like, it wasn't up for discussion, basically. It was, you're going to do what you're told.
Yeah, this way or no way.
And that's the big problem with it.
And yeah, it was quite scary, to be fair. It was scary. The thing that scared me the most was people's reactions to it. When you can clearly see yourself that, like, things aren't as they seem, and people just following so blindly. And also, like, everyone's, if I was to have like a conversation with someone about it, the way that their brain or the way that they were thinking about it and the arguments that they bring towards me were so
Yeah, they were
like
zombies.
but yeah, basically they
No,
didn't
they
have
had
anything to
none of
bring
their own thoughts
uh,
about it.
no evidence or any sort of like their own thoughts, and it was just like, oh my god, you guys really are just watching the news and that's everything,
Mm.
and you believe every. It's like, oh yeah, the great one is oh what? So you don't believe doctors, or you don't believe scientists, you don't believe science, and it's like,
There's no
what?
science.
Like we just believe everything that these people on the TV are telling us now, and it's just it just blew my mind how the science. Yeah, you say the science, but where's the science in having like vitamin D sufficiency
Mm.
and like
Mm.
not being allowed
It's
outside,
contrary to
and those
science.
two things. So where's the
The
science?
scientists
Yeah,
and the
where's the
doctors
science in that? And it's like you can't
sorry,
say.
the people that came out and spoke about it with those qualifications were deplatformed.
And that's another really scary thing, that all the deplatforming, the things that they've still got now. If you say anything about COVID on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, any sort of social media, it comes up with a little thing, like, and I had it as well. I was putting things on Instagram about COVID, and then I got my, what do they call it? It's like
Shadow banned.
not ghost, like it's shadow banned. So I was uploading and I was getting about 500 views per video on my story, and then it jumped down to like 30, literally being seen by no one. And the next day, and then I changed my account over to creator account. They went straight back after.
Mm.
It's like, what? And there was loads of people. And where's that guy from Bristol? That there was that one
The
guy from
tattoo
Bristol.
artist,
I
I've got
can't
him on
find him
Facebook.
anywhere now. The tattoo artist. I'd love to see what he's up to now, but he got banned. He was like opening up his shopping during
Council
COVID, and
were on his
he was
back.
like so against it. Everyone was on his case, and he had a really good following, and I really liked the things that he was doing, fighting back and stuff. And he just got deplatformed. They just took him off everywhere, and it's like, where's freedom of speech? Where is
There's no freedom. All these things now
with these.
are they're not rights. They're privileges. Yeah, and this is where the difference of like, it's a privilege for you to leave your house. It's not a right. You're allowed as long as you comply with what we're telling you to do. And then there's one point of this that we've not even mentioned, right? When the NHS and the way that things were being handled was basically leaving people to die, right? Because you weren't allowed there unless you had COVID, right? People dying and not getting diagnosed with things, and then them misdiagnosing and changing the death certificates and adding COVID, this, that, and the other, right? And then we have to come outside on a Wednesday at 6 o'clock and applaud them. And people actually stood there and like came into the street and clapped. What the fuck was that about?
And then they didn't put any of their like wages up. There was like 2% or something. It's like you sit like we go on about these amazing workers and stuff, but you didn't put their wages up. How does that make any sense? Like,
I don't personally see why they should have or would have. I mean,
but no, I'm saying it's contradictory for them to say, "Oh, let's go outside and clap for them," and they. To be honest with you, I don't think that the NHS get paid enough money as it is. They should get paid more anyway for the things that they have to see and stuff. So anyway, they should be getting paid more, whether it was to do with COVID or not. But the fact that it's very contradictory to come out and clap and like, yeah, the NHS, and put all the signs up and stuff, and it's like, but you don't put their wages up. How does that make any sense? And there's people who are sitting at home doing nothing, getting paid 80% of their wages, just print because we've been printing so much money, fucking the economy. Like, surely a bit of that money could have gone towards the people who were working, or like,
Well, they obviously
I don't know.
didn't think that they were actually doing something that was risky or something like that, because, you know, if someone's doing a riskier job, they should get paid more money. And yeah, it's hard to say why they wouldn't have done that. It's not like they don't have the money.
It's like you could literally take 1% of what they pay for artillery and army equipment and whatever goes into the army and the special forces and all this stuff. They take 1% from that. They could have funded
they put a lot of money
shitloads
into
of
propaganda. That's probably where they spent it all.
Yeah.
But then they could actually argue back that the propaganda actually plays out to be better than putting the money into healthcare, because it puts less people in the hospital. So God knows.
Yeah.
They could say anything at this point. This is the thing. And where I'm not saying it could be real, and I could just have seriously anecdotal perspective. And you know, like I could be 100% wrong, and I wish that I am, and I wish that I can find the information from kind of credible sources, which I don't see mainstream media as credible sources. The government isn't a credible source. All these things aren't credible sources that people go on about that as if they are. They're not. And the burden of proof isn't on me. It's on them. It's on them to prove that it exists, prove that what you're saying is right. It's not for me to disprove it, or for me to prove that me thinking it's not real is correct. Yeah. Like, it's not been isolated. It's not actually fit the thing. It's called like there's a test they do on viruses to explain, or for it to be defined as a virus. And this SARS-CoV-2 has not met the definition of it. So like, what are we talking about here? And there's like a thing, all these Freedom of Information Act requests to show whether they've isolated this virus. And so far I've not seen that it's been isolated. Right. And then all these fact check websites just say like, that's not true. They have been isolated. And it's like, where's the rest of the information then? Like, so there's a lot of things going on with it that are just shady, and it's basically anyone that was asking questions about it, and anyone that did anything that was kind of out of line or not exactly by what they were told, they're just called a nutcase, or they're just called an idiot, or you're just, what's the other things they get called? Like conspiracy theorist. And it's like nothing.
Conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxer.
That's the one.
All these
Anti-vax. And it's like, no, but like, yeah, but no, you can't ask questions at this time because we're in too dire of a situation. It's like, hang on, are we though? Are we actually? And no, you can't ask that. You can't ask that because we are, and you're not allowed to ask that. And there's articles that come out that say things like, trust the experts, even when they say they don't know. It's just a transition into being told everything by experts and not being allowed to ask questions. From my perspective, that's all that's happened. Whether or not a virus killed people, yeah, great. Everyone dies. It's 100% guaranteed, right? Whether or not it took people before their time was actually up is very sad. But this other thing also happened, and it affects everyone else who survived this awful pandemic. Yeah. And and I said it to everyone. I said the same thing to everyone the whole time. And I only probably know about 5 people who actually agree with even part of what my experience of it is. But maybe more than that. But it's few. It's not very many people. It's not many people. It's sad.
No. Yeah, it's hard, and obviously everyone's got difference in views on it, but that's how it's the fact that no one was allowed to talk about it which has strayed everyone towards one side. It's just like, that's just the way that things are. If you stop people from thinking a certain way or even having conversations, then it's all going to sway towards that side, because you're not even allowed to have the conversation about it. And that's what is so dangerous about not having freedom of speech, because you just cut off all these different arguments, and you can never the thing about having people on like so polar opposite sides is everyone can sort of form in the middle, where if you just have like a few on this side and loads on this side, then you're more than likely gonna the more people are going to be forming over that side, because these people aren't allowed to talk.
The thing is that it was very well known how to control the flow of information so that the propaganda was effective. Everyone who said anything contrary to the official narrative was deplatformed or shadow banned.
Shut
and
down.
that is the truth. And the only sources that I know about to find this other information is BitChute, which is like a decentralized video, similar to YouTube video platform. And there were so many, all the people that I'm subscribed to on there were all banned from YouTube, and their PayPals have been closed, and they've been made to earn. It's made it really difficult for them to earn money as content creators and things like that. And these are some of the most well-established alternative researchers that I've found out about online from looking at this type of stuff for like 6 or 7 years. Yeah. And they're not speculating. They're just basing it on fact of what actually happened, and looking at the situation like with a clear perspective. And I'll share all of these sources, and I'd love for people to look through it. And the thing that people don't do is you can send them these videos. You can say, look, this is where I've heard this. This is where I'm getting this information from. And they won't spend the time to learn about it, because it is quite complicated and it's not new. This thing that's happening is part of something that's old, that has been brought about over time. And there's
the thing is, it's easy to go with the narrative, and it's easy to, people are so scared of looking like the bad person. So you find all these older people in these tight-knit communities where it's like, you can't be seen to do the wrong thing, otherwise that makes you a bad person, signaling. And nobody wants to be this. Yeah,
I stayed in longer than you stayed in, and I gave up so much more than you gave up, and like, I can't believe you would jeopardize our freedom. Like, it was basically a way for,
we get let out quicker if you do this.
You're the reason why we're indoors. You're the reason why we're not allowed out. And it's like, actually, that's
you're
not
the
correct.
reason why we're indoors, because you.
Yeah, and this is the thing.
If you just went outside, we'd all be all right.
That's the thing. That's the thing where it's fucked. I want to do more about this topic, but I want to maybe start displaying some of the information and maybe talk about it like that, because this episode's been good because we're now talking about things in a different way, where we're talking about the system that we're faced with and how we interact with it and how we are finding our actual experience of it being different to what we're told about it. And that is, I think, a really integral way about the way that I think about things. Like, it's not what we're being told it is, but there is a way to interact with it so that you get the most out of it and you don't need to be too deep into it. So, you know, we're talking about money, for example. And like, I got out of life what I wanted to get out of it during this time. Whether these people decided to lock themselves in their houses or not is kind of down to them. You know, that wasn't actually like legal for them to say that. And it, you know, there's been so many things about how people that got fined got refunded, and those laws that came in were I think it's called ultra virus, which means it's like beyond their powers to actually bring these laws in. Ultra virus means beyond the powers. It's used to describe an act which requires legal authority but is then completed without the requisite authority. So they're making up rules that they're not in a position to make rules about. Like, you have to stay in your house. It's like, fuck off. You can't. How are you suggesting that I'm not allowed to leave my house? Like, we're on a rock in space. Who the fuck? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're in such we're such a minuscule part of this massive thing that's going on.
Not to mention, we've got a very limited time here. Like, I'll do what the fuck I want.
I mean? I'm not hurting anyone.
Like, if I want to, I'm going outside riding my bike. Fucking,
I had a lovely time.
I mean? But we could talk about this forever.
Okay,
and I do need to get to sleep. But I hope people enjoyed this episode. I mean, we've wanted to talk about this subject for a long time. But we've never really got around to it because it's such a hard thing to talk about, isn't it? It is. So you've got to word your way around it very well. And but I think we did a good job. I think I kind of went off a little bit, but you kept it sort of less, more from our point of view.
But it's something that you care about. It's something. It's not. We're not saying this to be like, all you people are like that it's your fault. The thing that's difficult to talk about this is that something happened to all of us and we were forced into a way of living that is unnatural for us. And if we were to actually, if we were to be self-aware enough and we were to be kind of aware enough of what's actually going on, of the actual reality, not what we're told about reality, but if we were actually talking about reality, then I think that everyone would have just said, nope, not doing that, try again. And the whole last 2 years ordeal just wouldn't have happened.
Plus the implications of the things that went on, like lockdowns, like what we've had the podcast with Karen, with kids that are just coming in with horrendous mental health issues now. And these implications, people knew about this. If you lock a kid in a room for a certain amount of time, they're going to have mental health problems. And you put fear into kids and all this stuff, like, that is trauma. Like, anyone who understands trauma, that is it. 2 years of that, like, people wearing masks, you can't see people's face. Like, kids are growing up now, like unable to like read people's faces very
Mm.
well, like facial expressions and stuff. And it's like all these different implications. If you knew, like if you were educated enough in the beginning to know that these were the things that were going to happen, because it's not like no one knew these
Mhm.
things were known. And if we knew about that, nobody would have. Well, I say nobody, but um, a lot of people I think would have wouldn't have gone through with that.
100%.
But yeah,
100%.
but yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. Hope nobody got offended or anything. We didn't mean to offend anyone. It's just yeah, it's obviously been a difficult time for everyone. And we say we had a we said it, we kind of got what we needed about it, but
It was
it
a
was
challenge.
difficult.
Challenging.
It
Yeah.
was, it was, it was a
100%.
challenge. The fact that we had to go through that and had to go through those changes that we didn't want, and yeah, we tried not to let it affect us, but there's only a come on, I think there's not one person it didn't affect. You know what I
It
mean?
was
So,
more frustration
but
for
yeah,
me than anything. I was, there
yeah,
were people
yeah,
who kind of got luck of the draw with it. Um, with what their job was, and kind of people that lived in shared houses had a nightmare. Only one person's allowed in the kitchen at a time, and people who wanted to go see their families, and their families were being particular about this, that, and the other. You know, if you didn't have to deal with that, then it's a
yeah. That was a tricky one.
completely different experience. So I did get
Mm,
lucky in all of those senses. So I obviously have a unique experience with it. But my opinion about what went on kind of remains the same, and I think I would think the same thing regardless. Um,
mm.
but yeah, I think this is a topic which we can talk about forever, and we should obviously stop there because it will go forever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh yeah. I
yeah.
need to go to sleep as well. I'm
Oh,
knackered.
sweet. Well, thanks for anyone who made it to the end.
Yeah, this is probably our longest
Nearly
podcast.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Until next time.
See you in a bit.